Hello, good evening.
Hi, hi. Nice to meet you.
You too. How are you?
Oh, I've heard your voice many times in other channels. To Tech and Sustain channel.
Which channel?
Sustain.
Oh, Kirsten.
Sorry. And to Tech?
Blessed to Teach, right?
Blessed to Teach, yes. Blessed to Teach seems to have disappeared from YouTube.
They did a purge of.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to be purged. My account already had warning 2 times.
Yep.
And so I can't upload now for 2 weeks. And I think I'm going to be purged too. But I have another channel.
That's what Blessed to Teach too. Also another channel. It's just now B2T.
Okay. I think I can find that.
Yep.
Thank you. I know you're very busy, and I want to introduce myself first. I lived in England when I was young, and my husband is diplomat, so I lived in many countries, and I was I've been doing all this research and trying to wake up people,
Right.
And I've been interested since 9/11.
Okay, that's what woke you up to the world is different than what we've been told, right?
Yes. At that 9/11, when I did research, I found out that it's really not true. And then the Kennedy assassination and all these things, and I was very, very mad. So I tried to wake up people, but it's chance now this year. Many people are really waking up because of the COVID-19. But still, Japan is a very, I know you've lived in Japan, you said, so Japanese people are very quiet and...
Yes, I remember.
Yes, so there are many people that don't know what's going on. Many, because they don't speak English that much.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was in Japan in first time, 1974 through 76.
So that was a good time in Japan, I think. Very peaceful.
Yep. And my submarine at that time, I wasn't in submarine, in the U.S. Navy for 21 years almost. Just a little bit less than 21 years. And during that time in 1974, for most of 1975, we were in dry dock in Yokosuka.
With your wife?
No, I was Navy.
I see. That's right. Yes.
Yes, I was a very young man. I'm only like 19 years old. Yeah. Then I went back with my wife last year, and we went vacation through much of Japan. We saw many. Yeah.
Wow.
And I climbed Mount Fuji, even though the top was closed. I went to the top anyway.
Because you're a veteran of the Navy, so you're very strong.
I was like, I don't care, it's closed. I'm going anywhere. I'm all the way to Japan, and I came all the way to the mountain.
Wow.
I have to go up.
I've never been to the top of the Mount Fuji, so you know better. And you've traveled many places already. You seem to be a very active and curious person.
I'm always, my whole life, since I start to read, that I'm always reading and studying and learning. I'm not like most American, like the sports and watch like football or basketball. No, I never did this. I'm always watching, reading or watching something educational or reading something to study and learn more.
Yes, and I think you're extremely knowledgeable, and also you're very spiritual as well.
Yeah. And then also I did study acupuncture and Chinese medicine as well. So, and then of course I do martial arts for 44 years.
Wow. What kind of martial arts do you do?
The first instructor I had was Vietnamese veteran, special forces. So I studied like combat style martial art.
Wow.
Then after that, my second instructor was teaching me the Okinawan styles of Goju and Shodan-ryu. Then after that, the next two instructor I had is Shaolin.
What is that? Shaolin?
Shaolin Kung Fu.
Kung Fu, okay.
Yep.
Wow. So your wife is very lucky. She has a very strong husband to protect.
Actually, my wife is initially I met her because she was martial arts student of mine in 1990. Yep.
Wow. So she climbed the Mount Fuji as well.
Yep. And she's a very ferocious fighter.
Really? Wow. So she loves what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yes.
Because I was going to ask you when did you really first come out to do this? Because you're really doing it for free and really to waken people up, I think. Your motive.
Yeah, this is the primary reason is to help people and to learn about what really the world is about and what is really going on, and to end the worldwide satanic cabal that they do terrible things, especially because of what they do to children.
I've go surfing around YouTube and to gather informations, but then I found you through those channels, and I liked your information the most. So profound and interesting for me.
Oh, thank you. I'm honored.
But you so your name is not Jean Cote Sensei, is your name?
That's the name I go by on YouTube.
Okay, so it's like a YouTube name.
Yeah, kind of like my alias.
Yeah. Jean also your name.
Because in martial arts, sensei is teacher.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's a sensei teacher.
And then, of course, English, the co, C-O, means with.
Yes. Co.
So I teach with to help people to understand with me.
Co-sensei. Yes. You are my teacher. And Jean also is not your name. So
this is all alias because I like to remain, like we have a term in military, below the radar.
Okay. So you've never been threatened or in danger, but people can recognize your voice.
I've had 3 attempts on my life.
Yeah, because by voice, people can recognize sometimes.
Well, back in the early time before the internet, I would do speaking at public forums like AIDS conference.
With a mask? No.
back in like 1990s.
Oh, that's early, very early. I think it was
I was talking. I was stationed in Hawaii at that time, and I would talk at like AIDS conference. Telling the truth about AIDS, how the U.S. government made AIDS at Fort Detrick in Maryland. So I would talk about this to try to, and I had already at that time knew 2Cure. So I was talking, but during that time, I had a car follow me all the way from downtown Honolulu to where I live. And then the next day, my brake lines got cut. So I lost my brake on the freeway at like 60, 70 miles an hour. Yeah.
And you survived?
Yes, I know how to drive really good. So I was okay.
Wow.
Then the next time,
very scary.
Next time again was in late 1990s. I was in Arizona and again talking in public, and they loosened all of the lug nut on my tires, so my tires got loose. and I built that car, so I know it's not accident. I'm the one put the whole car together. When I put the nuts for the tire on, I jump up and down on it on the ridge to make sure it's tight. So when all of them are loose at the same time, that somebody had to do that. So again, I pull off the road and fix it. So I was okay because I heard the sound vibration and the weird vibration in the car. So I pull over and I was okay again.
Wow.
Yeah. But now with the internet, it's a little bit safer because you don't have to be in public and showing your face like that. So now, since that time, no more.
Mm-hmm. But still, I think the God is protecting you. I'm sure.
Yes, indeed. Very obviously.
And you're going to get lots of trophy now after Trump is re-elected.
Oh, that does not matter to me. I'm just trying to help.
You must be excited now, right? Because you've been doing this for such a long time. It's really exciting time, I think, now.
Yeah, exciting because from the first time that, I woke up, which was 1990, I red pill.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had a high clearance in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that, the information I'm told, not the same, we would go to sea to do operation. And the captain of the ship was told one thing, I'm told another thing. The crew is told another thing. The public is told another thing. Nothing is true. It's completely different. So I was like, okay. And it suddenly dawned on me that, everything I had ever been told was most likely a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Then I start investigating really, really hard, 30 hours at least every week from that time, from 1990, that was in August, till this time.
Well, but is it August 22nd, 1990?
Yes, that's when I woke up.
Something happened on that day?
Yeah, it's just like, they call epiphany when suddenly the light comes on in your head, and it was so powerful that, I was just like, oh my goodness, I just freeze in my track. It was so powerful what happened. It's a long story, but, I was just like, oh my goodness. So then I immediately went and start researching at the Supreme Court Law Library in Honolulu, and I look up, because in the middle of, in secret operation, you always, if you want to know what's really going on, you follow the money.
Ah.
Yeah, so this is how you figure out what's going on. So I found the congressional budget, Section 5 of 1970, the $150 million grant to engineer a virus that will target the human immune system by the KGB, the MI6, and the CIA. To being done at Fort Detrick in Maryland. I'm like, that's AIDS. It's kind of obvious. It's AIDS, right?
Oh, at that time, I didn't realize that everybody was so scared of AIDS that days. Oh, so you realized that's good.
Mm-hmm.
But says 1990, so that's 30 years. You've been doing this, and you're never tired. I'm already tired, but you're never tired.
Many very hard times. A lot of very hard times. When I retired from the Navy, I didn't get married, but I did have a fiance for 7.5 years.
You waited that long because you were too busy doing this?
Well, the reason I wait is because every time the submarine is pulling in port, because you're at sea for so very long time, sometimes 1 or 2 years.
1 or 2 years in submarine? No.
They're at sea the whole time for like 1 or 2 years straight.
Yeah.
So every time that the ship is pulling back in, half the married people are getting divorced.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. So even though I love the girl, the lady I was with, I'm like, I don't like to like make a mistake or have divorce. So I said, I'm going to wait till I'm retired and I don't go to sea anymore. Right? But then during that time was when I red pilled. So when I retired from the Navy, then very quickly after I retired, because I had changed so much from the red pill and changed the way I think about the world, changed everything, that she said she doesn't want to be around me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So for the next 3 years, I retired in 1994 until 1997. I pretty much lived completely alone.
Okay.
And I almost never saw any people at all, other than my martial arts instructor 2 days a week. I don't see anybody. And because, people don't want to be around because I talk really weird.
Yes, at that time you must have been weird.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's like, you're out of your mind. Talk about New World Order, different things, and they're like, you're insane. There's no such thing. You make it all out. There's no family that owns all the banks on earth. So they thought I'm totally crazy. And for that first, like from 1990, when I first woke up and start researching, all of the way until like 2018, in that entire time. So you're talking 28 years. I have 6 people that I got woke up. One is my wife now. So
good, great.
Like, and I would usually, I talked to about 300 people telling me information, I would hit one person that knew something about what I was saying. Like, oh yeah, I heard about this or I heard about that. But it was like 1 in 300 people. So now it's very exciting because when you're talking to people, it's like 1 in 10, and not just they know something like, oh, I heard about the New World Order, or I heard about the trade towers not real. Now, 1 in 10 people. It's not like I heard something. It's like, yeah, I heard that, and we're all sharing information. Yeah, you heard about this? Yeah, I heard about that. Oh, I didn't know that part. So it's really exciting because, like, just 1 in 10 people. You get somebody that's really awake now.
I think in Japan, maybe 1 out of 100, maybe.
Much less,
because of the language problem.
Mm-hmm.
So still, sometimes I cannot find people that want to talk about this. There's very restricted people that's interested.
Right.
But I don't feel like going out with somebody who's not interested now. Because at this moment, I'm only interested in this subject.
Yeah, for me, it's very difficult because now after so long of so much research for so many years, that for the regular people that don't know what I know about and wake up to the real situation in the world, I really don't have anything I can talk about.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was like, even my sister, which she is totally blue, like we said, blue pill, right? Totally. And so, until the Alliance took control of the weather, the HARP and these chemtrailing and all of this thing, I can't even talk about the weather. My sister called me. She goes, "How are you doing?" "I'm doing good." "How are you doing? How's your husband?" Then after that, she goes, "So what's the weather?" I mean, in my mind, I think whatever the cabal wants the weather to be, right? The chemtrail and the HARP, and you're going to do this. I can't say that to her because she's going to get upset. So I'm like, let me go outside and look. That's all I can say. I can't really say anything. She goes, you heard about Fukushima? Yeah, I heard about it, but I can't go. She goes, so what, do you know what in the world is going? If she said, like, what's in the world's going on? What happened? I can't go into that because I know the truth. And if I tell her, she's going to get upset. So I can't talk about it at all.
Yeah, and Jean, these kind of, I don't know how to express about these people, not stubborn, but, I do have the same kind of people in my family. When will they wake up, you think? What will wake them up? Because nothing seems to make them change their mind, brainwashed mind.
Yes, my sister is this way, and my wife's family she talked to everybody one time. I told her one time. Don't go more than one time or they get angry. And her, they're very Democrat.
Okay. So even this hunter stuff, the bombshell, like Giuliani is talking, and maybe it's not on media, the main media. So
right.
Maybe those people still don't pay any attention.
Right.
They're not interested.
Right. It's because, for the average person, once they get out of school and they start working, they don't learn anything more. They don't have the desire to learn anything more. They go to work, they come home, they raise their family, and that's it. That's their life. They don't continue to learn. They don't have the curiosity. And so they're afraid that if they start to go into this, that maybe they lose their job or they have to think about their whole world is not what they thought it was. The same for me, but I'm the type of person that I don't like when people lie to me. I don't like if I don't think what I thought I know is not real at all. So I want to know the truth, even if it's terrible. I want to know the truth.
Yeah, I really want to know the truth, and I don't lie. I don't like lies and frauds. Very honest.
And then I have like endless curiosity about how everything is. So like, I learned to build, like my wife's first car. I built it.
Really?
Yeah. I went to salvage yard and I got the body and the same, the first cars I had, the Honda. I built this car all the way, every part, the engine, the distributor. I mean, every single thing, I put it together myself because I just, I taught myself because it's fascinating.
Wow. I would like to meet you, really. When you come to Japan next time, please meet me. I would like to meet you.
Oh, absolutely.
You seem to be very interesting.
And then, the human body. I don't like, I noticed that when in the Navy, when you go to the doctor, they usually make you worse. So I want to know how the body works and how to fix the body myself. So my first instructor, he said, if you're going to learn to take a person apart, you got to know how to put him together. So I learned acupuncture, I learned Chinese medicine, I learned naturopath, I studied in Sri Lanka. I mean, all over the world, I'm like learning and homeopathic and all this different, modality of healing and how, to fix and help people be healthy. And then the same when I went through it. When I retired in the Navy, I have a GI Bill. So I went and was working on electrical engineering degree. And I noticed now I'm ripping, this is all lies, this is ridiculous. So I start researching and how does it really work? And how does this work? And how math is really done, Vedic math instead of the ridiculous like digital math they teach you all the way through calculus and differential. So, by the time I'm going in calculus and courses, one teacher, he said, if you be my math assistant and explain how you're doing what you're doing, you get A+, automatic, because I don't understand what you're doing. And it's so fast and so much easier than what I've been taught. And so, it was just, and then, I had teacher, like the calculus teacher was a genius. So when he learned what I taught, then he and I worked together and started developing them even more. It was exciting, So I just like keep growing and, and I just love to keep learning and everything. I mean, just research everything. And I'm very logical minded and I see pattern. And then I'm always very observant. So when I'm going out in one of my martial arts, I'm always going out in the wilderness and practicing. So I'm noticing things like, wow, that looks like a hole in the side of a mountain with a door. Is that so then I'm learning about the dumbs and these I'm researching. I'm like, okay, and so I'm looking at the interviews like Phil Snyder. And then
Phil Schneider, yes, that's very interesting, yes.
And then I actually, as I start to red pill, I got very, God is helping me so much because I met and got to talk to Dr. Coleman, who wrote the Committee of 300, like Jordan Maxwell, so many people.
Dr. Coleman.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
He wrote the Committee of
I got that book, yes.
Yeah, and Jordan Maxwell and so many people that I met and talked to.
That's Jordan Maxwell, wow.
He and I we really hit it off. So we talked from after dinner. We had dinner at like 5 o'clock. We talked till the next morning breakfast. Non-stop. We talked like 14 hours non-stop. We're just like, but this, oh yeah, that's fascinating. So he would say and show me some things, and then I would fill in, because you're back and forth. You both have research, but he has research I don't have. I have research. So you're putting more and more together. It's so exciting. So, I got, like my martial arts, I have some of the best instructor on earth. And, just like God always, like I also was in high school. I'm like championship runner, but I wound up having like an Olympic coach. And when I went in the Navy, I have Olympic coaching to learn to swim. Everywhere I go, I get the best, you know. It's like, God is so.
So you need to always the right and the best people. Did you meet Phil Schneider?
I didn't meet him, but
he passed away quite quickly.
Yeah. I have met Corey Good and David Wilcock and Michael Tellinger and Graham Hancock and
so many great people. I think Michael Tellinger. I think he was talking in March about the Federal Reserve. With him,
right?
I think in March.
Mm-hmm.
That President Trump took over the Federal Reserve.
Correct. Yeah, the Federal Reserve has been moved into the U.S. Treasury.
But that was early in March. I think I thought he was the one of the first that really spoke about that.
Right. And then at the beginning, the geophysical beginning of the year, which is October, the middle of the year, excuse me, October 15th, the Federal Reserve has to start buying back their loan using T-bill. So every day since that time that they've been buying back over $1 trillion a day.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a lot. So, and that's because over the time of the Federal Reserve, the big three families that own the Federal Reserve, the Rothschild, which is 52% of the total control of it, the blue chip stock, and then the other percentage, 48, is split evenly between Carnegie and Rockefeller. And Carnegie and Rockefeller are cousin to Rothschild. Okay. So those three families own the Federal Reserve. And since the Federal Reserve came into creation in 1913, that the Rothschild and those families, if you look at the testimony of Senator Louis T. McFadden in the floor of Congress in the 1930s, he shows us shipping documents for $100 million a day in gold bullion going from the U.S. to Geneva for Swiss bank account for those three families. So you can imagine at $100 million a day gold bullion starting in 1913, how much, but very shortly by 1927, there's no gold reserve in the U.S. at all. So then they switched to silver. And then after that, that's why they set up the banker holiday, the 3-day banker holiday, and they shut the banks down and they emptied the banks and then they create the depression. And that is so that they can then demand that people turn in their gold. Then they get the gold of the people. Then they switch, ship that to their Geneva bank account too. So in all that time, you can see that the amount of gold, for example, before Trump, the Rothschild family is worth $430 trillion. So now, and that they are just the like the errand boy for the Paysure family. The Paysure is like the paymaster. That is like a French term that essentially means paymaster. So they have, paymaster, he doesn't do the work. He has the lower people to do the work. So the Paysure family at that time when Trump got in was worth $400 quadrillion. I mean, that's a number. How do you even put that in your head and understand? You cannot. That's so much, So now you can see how, because people go, how possibly could the Federal Reserve be paying back $1 trillion a day every day in U.S. Treasury note that they have to buy by giving gold to the U.S. Treasury in T-bills. They get T-bills, guarantee and pay in gold. And then they pay off the fake loan that they made. And when they go completely insolvent, in other words, bankrupt, then they're gone. They're liquidated. And all that's left is the U.S. Treasury. And all that gold has been moved back from the Federal Reserve into the U.S. Treasury. But people said, if that's a long time ago now, it's $1 trillion a day, October, November, December, I mean, already almost, so if you're saying that, and this is October last year, not this year, last year. So you're already talking 12 months, we're already past October 15th. Every day for 12 months, if you say $1 trillion a day over 365 days, that's $365 trillion. But the Rothschild were worth more than that. And that came primarily, a lot of it from the looting through the Federal Reserve. Some of it, of course, also came from like when they killed the Tsar and they looted and wiped his family out. That was the greatest robbery in the history of the world. Just because the Tsar of Russia at that time was the richest person on earth and had generations of values, gold and silver and all kinds of bear bonds, for example, and rare jewels. And just in the bear bond, there was over $13 billion, but that's in the money at that time, not currently. So that's a massive sum of money. So there was many armored trucks. And then when they created the French Revolution, and they always do this, they create war and back both sides. So when Wellington was going to be involved with Napoleon at Waterloo, they had already got Wellington there first, and that had given two of Napoleon's general a payoff so that during the battle they would break ranks so that the ranks would be split in half. And they already told the battle plan to Wellington, and he had superior mercenary forces from the houses of Hesse and Hanover, which again are black, this black nobility families. And so it was obviously that the Wellington would win and Napoleon would lose, but the Rothschilds' son were all started dumping their French bond. And so they were saying that Napoleon would, and they knew that the Rothschilds, the British aristocracy knew the Rothschild were controlling the situation and backing Napoleon because their couriers had little red bag. Rothschild means red shield. So they had these little red bag. So when the Rothschild sons started dumping all their French bond, they said, Napoleon's going to win and the Bank of France is going to collapse. So the British aristocracy, and pretty soon all the British wealthy people started dumping all their French bond. But there was an illegitimate son, Adam, that most people did not know. And he was buying up the bonds at very, very low rates, less than a tenth on the, what would be 10 cents on the dollar today. So that then when Napoleon lost, it collapsed and the Bank of France came back full power. They captured the Bank of France, but that collapsed the Bank of England. So then the Bank of France, which is now the Rothschild Bank, bails out and buys the Bank of England. So in one move, the Rothschild got total control and owned the Bank of England in France. And so, of course, this is another way that they, how they do. They make these wars to get control of countries and their banking systems. So, by the time that Trump got in, if you were to look at the world banks, every single bank on earth was in control of that family, which is, of course, they're just the lackey for the Pasteur family. And so now that's what we're seeing is, to take back all of this, and that once that's all done, and already in Russia this has been done, to put in Jassara. So that requires that first your president stepped down, and Putin did that, and then was reelected, and then all of the rest of the government steps down. It has to be, people have new elections. That was already done. That's what is the plan for the rest of the world. Additionally, into that will be that besides the re-elections, then after that comes out all of the hidden patents and suppressed patents on free energy, anti-gravity, all the space program kind of patents, as well as full disclosure of the space programs. And so there's a lot of things involved. It also puts, of course, the primary focus is on the economic system. So it turns the economic system, which is currently backed by the essentially backed by people's birth certificate, that the people themselves are the commodity that is exchanged by the various black noble families as a commodity that they own to back the currencies of the world.
Excuse me, about the birth certificate backing the currency. Is that only the United States, right? Not Japan.
That's the whole world.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Well, nobody's talking about that in Japan. Really, I have to dig into that.
Yes. So it's like when a child is born, just like when you build a car, Mitsubishi or Honda, when the car comes off the assembly line, it has a title. That is that piece of paper represents the commodity of the car.
Yeah.
So when a child is born, they get a birth certificate. Same thing as the pink slip on the car. That is the title for the person, and that is bought and sold on the big world market and is what has up until Trump. Yeah, and when they get Nasara Jasara, at that time they're going to replace that what is called admiralty law in the exchange of people. Essentially, everybody on earth, they don't realize it, but they're slaves. It's like, we say you go in the store and you get eggs, and you get free-range eggs, right, from free-range chicken. We're free-range slaves. You don't think you're a slave, but you could go around and stuff, but you can't really go around. You don't realize that everywhere you go, you have to show your paper. You have to show your passport. You have to have the visa, and that's all controlling, so they know where their commodities are moving, because it's all under admiralty law, which means law of the high seas, so that you're like being shipped back and forth and around, and they're keeping track of where the commodity goes and what it does, because they own you, and you back every country. The people back the bank, because it's not backed in gold and silver, because they stole it all. Like at the end of World War II, when the emperor signed and surrendered, they took all the gold out of Japan. These big family again, and they had forced Japan into the war in the first place by blockade on Japan, so they can't get, not a rising in industrial power. They can't get in the coal, they can't get in the ore, they can't do anything. And so there were ambassadors to the United States that were saying that, if you do not remove the blockade, we will attack the United States. And people think, Pearl Harbor, but actually that was not the first time that Japan attacked the United States. There was a battle in the Aleutian Island that got down to hand-to-hand combat in the Japanese camps, where the U.S. military was hand-to-hand combat with the Japanese soldier, because, the samurai code, you'd fight to the death. That's it. So they fought to the death. And so the U.S. had already been abandoned, invaded. But they used the Pearl Harbor, like they always do, as an event where it looks like, oh, this terrible people's is doing this to us. But in reality, the Japanese really don't have a choice. And so they joined Hitler because they were up against the wall and had no choice at all.